Hello everyone and welcome to Fight Night Legends Top 3 Decks. In this series, we follow Fight Night Legends each and every single week. We look at the top performing decks, the most popular, and decks to watch of the most recent Fight Night Legends. Before we get into the video, take a second to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with all of our Legends of Runeterra content. Check out the links in the description to find our social media pages. We've got lots of folks working behind the scenes to keep the content flowing and to allow for our weekly Runeterra tournaments. Fight Night Legends is a 2-deck no-ban format. This allows players to build a lineup with whatever they believe is the strongest deck without the fear of their best deck getting banned. In this type of format, you may find that players will build a lineup around one of their decks where the second deck checks the weaknesses of the first, while others bring a more standard 2-solid deck lineup. Now, let's get into it. Starting off this week in third place was Kuvira. This week, he opted for a bit of an old school lineup of Ashe Noxus in Scouts. Such a lineup seems to do reasonably well against Zed Lee, the most played deck of the event, making it a solid choice for the day. Coming in second, we have Rattling Bones. He chose to take Zed Lee and War Mother's Control. This lineup takes full advantages of the pillars of today's metagame, as Combo Lee and Freljord Ramp have been some of the strongest strategies in the game in the past month. Taking home the crown this week is WhatAmI, who brought one of the most interesting lineups that we've seen in recent fight nights. It is not often that double aggro shines in Fight Night, but this week, discard aggro alongside of Nocturne Endure, yes, you heard that right, was able to take that down. WhatAmI and Rattling Bones will be returning next week to fight again. As for the week's top decks, we actually ended up having one of the most diverse top 4s in Fight Night history, with all 8 decks being unique. One of the notable decks of the event this week was War Mother's Control, and it is our number 3 deck. Championed by Rattling Bones, this strategy will cheat mana in the early game so that it can accelerate into the late game faster. Trundle is key for this deck as it helps bridge the War Mother's player from the early game into the late game safely and with a board to boot. Rattling Bones War Mothers may not be quite what you would expect out of the archetype. His build leans into Alpha Wildclaw of all cards. While it may look strange on the surface, Alpha Wildclaw works nicely along with other overwhelms such as Trundle and Tryndamere, while also pairing well with Atrocity. War Mothers has struggled in the past weeks due to its poor matchup into Lee Sin combo. However, recently the context of the matchup has been changing. By including frostbite effects such as Flash Freeze or Harsh Winds, the strategy now has a way to combat the Lee Sin OTK. This, alongside the deck's Overwhelm units, gives War Mothers a solid counterclock to Lee Sin and a real plan to win the matchup. No stranger to success in recent weeks of Fight Night, we have Zed Lee Sin as our number 2 deck. This strategy is able to consistently set up an unstoppable Lee Sin and then protect him with counter magic such as Hush, Notify, Bastion, and Deny. Lee Sin OTK has been a consistent force in recent Fight Nights. The deck is simply consistent. It has a handful of tools to keep its hand size up and a solid gameplay against a majority of the format, only struggling against the most aggressive decks in the format. Though Zed Lee has consistently been one of the strongest decks for Fight Night in Call of the Mountain metagame, it is possible that this success will not last long. Recently, Riot stated that they feel Lee Sin is a bit too strong and that they have plans to bring him more in line with the rest of the format. We will have to see what the future holds for this combo deck. Shocking everyone, this week our number 1 deck is none other than Nocturne Endure. This archetype is innovation at its finest, adapting one of Runeterra's most classic archetypes, Endure. While Endure has commonly been accepted as a strong strategy, it has become rigid and has not recently found a build that can thrive in this new format. WhatAmI has proved everyone wrong about the archetype, bringing it to a first place finish. Compared to the They Who Endure list of the past, this one has moved away from a handful of cards that have been considered staples for quite some time. Most notably is the decision to cut Callista, who oftentimes has been the only champion included in They Who Endure. This build of the deck is able to explode onto the board early and close the game out with a massive unit. Oftentimes that unit will be They Who Endure, but with 2 copies of Battle Fury, the list has a devastating trick up its sleeve. We have seen Battle Fury Endure lists pop up in the past, but how often are they just a flash of success? Will this build of They Who Endure fade away? Or could this be the new direction for the archetype? What a ride that this Fight Night was. It is not often that you see such a wide range of decks perform, especially in a metagame that has been said to have been dominated by Lee Sin and Noxus build water strategies. Though Zed Lee and Swain TF were the most commonly brought decks of the week, they ended up not being very successful in the grand scheme of the day. Will players continue to innovate ways to target the boogeyman of the format, or will they rise back up and claim their throne. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Follow us in future weeks as we explore the question. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe for future Giant Slayer LOR content.